Within the world of professional wrestling, factions are a major staple. We have major factions like the Elite, the Bullet Club, any other New Japan faction. I mean, if you think of any New Japan wrestler, they're more than likely in a faction, let's be honest. But they're a backbone in professional wrestling, and we've seen it with some of the great ones in history too, like the Four Horsemen and stables like Evolution too. Shout out Ric Flair. But in this particular PJR, we are looking at three men who were a part of wrestling factions in history that were considered like the third man in the group, if you will. Somebody who maybe got a little outshined by their other two stars, but was still a member of a great group in wrestling history in the first place. And Juice, you were the one that brought these three up to the plate. So why don't you give us a little introduction on them?
Yeah, I thought I'd do not to call any of these guys lesser, but the third guy in a faction. So like New Day, the Shield, and I'll say the three and Evolution. Yeah, Evolution. Those three factions. I took Xavier Woods, Batista, and Ambrose. And if you disagree that they're the third guy, that's fine. And you can say that in the comments. But that's who I picked for this PJR. And also, like Bill, maybe you're thinking, oh, it's an easy release. I didn't take it that way. I think one of these guys is one of the most underrated wrestlers of our generation. And I think I'm in the minority that I think he's an easy guy I'd put a world title on because I think he's got the charisma. I think he's got the talent. And we'll get to it when I do my PJR, which I'm going to do it right now. Push. This is tough for me. Originally, I was going to push Woods. But because that's the guy I was saying. I think he's got the charisma, the talent to be a world champ. I think he's awesome in the ring. I think of the three New Day members, I enjoy watching his matches in ring work the most. Charisma, I think he's great on the mic. I think he just brings a great energy. The crowd always rallies behind him. And there is a lot of love for Woods. And I think he just brings a lot of different markets to WWE too, because he's a gamer and stuff like that. Well, just the gaming market, but he's a big draw and really important to the company. And I do think he could be a main event guy and a big draw. But I decided to change my push to Batista because I'm thinking from a business aspect. Yeah, I like Woods more, and I do think Woods can bring in plenty of money, but Batista is going to be a bigger draw for most fans. So that's the easy choice. Not easy choice, but that's the choice. I think that's best for business. Put Batista in top card. I don't think he's a convincing mid-carder. That's a guy that definitely has to be in the main event scene. I job Xavier Woods. I think that's a great mid-card champion. I think that's a guy I definitely want on my roster. I think he's great for the locker room because everyone loves him. I think he just has a great mind for the business. And I think he can teach a lot of people things too. I'm releasing Ambrose here. I really like Ambrose. On the podcast, I'm very clear I don't like the John Moxley character, but Dean Ambrose, huge fan. I love Dean Ambrose. That's probably my second favorite Shield member. I love his run in WWE. Ambrose definitely a main event guy too. I just think, and you're probably thinking, well, yeah, he's a bigger draw than Woods. That should be the job. I think if Woods is pushed correctly, he could be the biggest draw of the three of them. So I'm releasing Ambrose here because I just think he's not as charismatic as the other two. I don't think he's as talented as the other two. Has he been pushed better than Woods? Yeah, but that's just because that's who bookers see as better. But I don't. And it's my company, so I do what I want.
And you are entitled to that opinion, good sir. You know, I'll be honest. The arguments that you presented are very valid and I think very good. I completely agree with you with your push. That is going to the animal, Batista. You said it best in terms of presence, in terms of presentation, in terms of in-ring work, and in terms of just what it means to be a professional wrestler. I think that Batista always had that. And if you're a podcast regular, you will know that on our podcast, which you can find on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and pretty much any other major podcasting platform, you'll know that I am a huge Batista mark. In fact, I even made my first wrestling show sign for Batista as a child. So Batista, absolutely going to the top of my fictitious company. That man is going to be my world champion for 7 years. Going to beat that Bruno Sammartino record. Probably not, actually. But now, when we're getting to job, you kind of hit a little bit of the chords there, Juice. I'm not gonna lie, you tugged at the heartstrings there a little bit, because I fucking love Xavier Woods. I've met that man in person, shook his hand, massive human being, by the way. Like, he compared to, like, you see him against like Big E and like Kofi, who's a little taller than him. You're always like, oh, Woods kind of a smaller dude. Woods is fucking jacked. I'm gonna tell you that right now. That is a jacked man, very handsome man too, by the way. You know, not that not to bring it there, but yeah, very handsome man too. And I agree with you though, because I follow up, down, down. The party. That's like some of the best gaming content I've seen. Granted, I love all four guys involved, but his charisma is like off the charts. I think that Woods is super duper underrated on the mic. I feel like he is a big reason of, like, when you think of classic New Day segments, Woods is mostly going to be the one that's talking. E was good for the one-liners and the big, like, I'm the muscle, I'm going to beat you up kind of lines. And Kofi was just good at the delivery because he was the veteran. He was the guy that was known for being a Jafakin and, known for his in-ring style as well. And Woods really is the balance to it all. And like the podcast that the New Day used to do regularly, they had like funny names for all their combinations, but like they even said it themselves, like in their podcast, that Woods was the balance between the two. Woods had like the flashy in-ring style, and he also had the big power bruising moves when he was going against a smaller opponent. And I don't know if you mentioned this in your description, and you're more than welcome to jump in here with me talking about this, but Consequences Creed was an underrated wrestling character too, in terms of in-ring style and like his time in TNA. I know you were a little bit more of a TNA fan than I am, so I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
I don't have much to add since I was a little bit before when I got back and like rewatching stuff, but they trusted him to be paired with Pac-Man, like a football athlete in a tag match. I think, yeah. No. He was I'm thinking he was in a huge tag match in like a Bound for Glory or a sec, and with a high profile partner that they had to trust him to work with. But they trusted him. And yeah, Constant Creed is a underrated character, really fun character. He just does great character work. Love Woodsy.
By the way, I just looked it up, confirmed was against Woods or Creed. But I feel like he's a veteran too, though. You know, like when he came into WWE television, he was presented a little strangely. And I feel like if we're going to talk about strange too, Dean Ambrose, the Lunatic Fringe was great. I liked the Lunatic Fringe. Was he cringy at times? Yeah. Did they not let him be crazy enough? Also, yes. I feel like he was a watered down version of the John Moxley we have today, like very super duper watered down. Had a little bit more, I don't want to say charisma, but like Moxley's just like type of character that walks in and kicks your ass, where like Ambrose would like give you the time of day, you know, like he'd have a promo battle with you. He would have James Ellsworth, for instance. Like that's one of my favorite feuds of like back in like the late teens of WWE, was Dean Ambrose versus AJ Styles, with James Ellsworth just for some reason being involved. For whatever reason he was, but goddamn was that kind of funny. And I don't know, like thinking about him versus Woods now and hearing your arguments particularly for it, I think I'm going to have to go Woods jobbing and Ambrose being released. And again, that's no mark or criticism against either of those guys, but Woods, again, veteran, that's a guy that can be a US champion or an intercontinental champion, and you're going to get good quality matches, and the guy who beats him for it's going to get put over beating him. And Ambrose, he left the company before and he went and became a multiple time world champion at the next company that he was a part of, and is a big reason why that company is so successful, or has been successful at least up until this point. So I'm going to imagine that Ambrose will probably become Mox and be a world champion again somewhere else.
Agreed. And also one other reason I didn't say initially that I would keep Woods for sure on my roster is fan interaction for wrestlers is huge, and he's one of the best at it. Like if you're on Twitter and Instagram and you comment on one of his pictures or statuses, he replies to so many people, and he does so many events or like appearances and autograph signings. Like he is a man of the people, and he does so much for the fans because he's a fan. And I know Mox was too, but Mox is pretty known for of course he'll do signings and he appreciates his fans, but he doesn't he's very reclusive, quiet guy, and his Twitter presence is non-existent because he doesn't care about it. And that's fine. I'm not saying he should because Twitter's toxic, but one person that makes it less toxic is Woods because he's a fun time. And that's why I'd keep it. I think that's an important aspect.
I completely agree. And if you disagree with our push job release choices tonight, you can let us know in the comments below, or you can let us know on social media, which are also linked below, but just tell the people where they can find us.
Yeah, on Twitter, capital T, capital O, capital T, capital C, underscore, capital P, lowercase o, lowercase d, Instagram, TOTC, underscore POD.
Yes, and again, thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you are liking, rating, and subscribing to our channel. And of course, we thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.